software engineering is a very, unique, a unique role, right? It combines science and art in a very interesting way, right? Like there is math in it, right? There is, I think about writing code as a creative thing, right? And there's arts in it, right? So I think it gives you a unique blend of these two things. I remember in my startup, I used to work for 80 hours a day, constantly 24/7 for 1.5, 2 years. I worked like that, right? And it was not success. Okay? So be prepared that, financial reward is not guaranteed.
Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are back with a new video. Today we have not just one but two very special guests with us. Harsh, who is the co-founder and CTO here at AccioJob, and Manish Jawa, who is a senior engineering manager at a very renowned company and has also worked in some major companies in past such as Meta and Microsoft. Harsh engages in a conversation with Manish to discuss all things tech and software development. They both have been working in this industry for quite some time, so the discussion is going to be really insightful. So do make sure that you watch it till the end. But before moving forward, take a moment to subscribe our channel and press the bell icon so that you're always notified on all our upcoming videos. Now, without wasting any more time, let's jump into the session.
Hey guys, I'm Harsh. I'm one of the co-founders here at AccioJob. Today I have Manish Jawa with us. Manish has been an experienced software engineer and an engineering manager at a variety of different places. He started his career with Microsoft and has gone on to work at great companies like Meta and Amazon as well. So today Manish has been kind enough to take 20-30 minutes of his time out for us. We'll just like to ask Manish a few questions and see how that knowledge can help us become better in our careers. So Manish, would be great if you could start with a quick intro of yours for the audience.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Manish. I have been in the software industry for around 16 years now. I started my career with, as being a systems programmer. So used to work on Windows device drivers. I worked in virtualization domain. So initial 5 years of my career, it was mostly systems focused. So I worked at companies like Microsoft, Citrix, VMware, where I built, virtualization, hypervisors, right? These kinds of things, mobile virtualization. And then, so while I was working on mobile virtualization I was in VMware, and so I went to Palo Alto, Bay Area during that time, and somewhere around that time, I got interested into machine learning, applied machine learning, consumer web, and that is when I, after some time, I moved to a startup as a first engineer. It was known as Notify.io, which was building recommendation systems, chatbots, things like that. That was based out of Bay Area, that startup. Then, but engineering was in India. And then, gradually I moved to a principal engineer role at BrowserStack, then eventually to an engineering manager role. Last 6 years, I've been an engineering manager, mostly working on building AI-related things at places like Flipkart, Amazon, Meta, and currently I am with Atlassian.
Got it. Great to hear that, Manish. So let's start from the very beginning, right? So what do you think was the reason because of which you chose software engineering as the profession that you wanted to follow and have been following for almost a couple of decades now, right? So there must be some sets of pleasures that you derive from the job ultimately to be able to do this continuously for so long. So could you share something regarding that?
Yeah, sure. So I think software engineering is a very, unique, a unique role, right? It combines science and art in a very interesting way, right? Like there is math in it, right? There is, I think about writing code as a creative thing, right? And there's arts in it, right? So I think it gives you a unique blend of these two things. And so that's like one primary reason. Then another reason I feel is software engineer, is opens the world to you, right? It's a very global, you become a global citizen in a, very easily. From sitting in India, you can work for companies who are like based out of US, Canada, all over the world. So that is like another very interesting aspect of being a software engineer. And the third aspect I would say is, it also lets you, as you progress, right? It also gives you an opportunity to build your startup, right? So I think it's a good window or a door to be an entrepreneur down the line, right? And so I think these three are very unique. So software engineering career path is very uniquely positioned for these three things, and that's why I love being a software engineer.
Great to hear that. Very nice. All right. So, like you mentioned as well, you have been an engineering manager as well for more than 5 years now, right? And you have been a founding engineer in a startup as well, and have worked with a lot of MNCs as well, right? So, always wanted to understand what sorts of people are maybe a better fit for a startup setting versus what sorts of people would probably excel more or enjoy things more at a top MNC, right? So what are some qualities that are different between these two roles in software engineering, and what sorts of qualities are there which are going to remain the same?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, right? I think dealing with ambiguity, right? Dealing with unknowns, right? Like in your day-to-day job, right? You are given a task and it is pretty high level, you don't know what to do, right? I think that's a very key skill set for a startup, because in a startup, as you are going through the journey of a startup, you will hit into these kind of scenarios almost on a daily basis, right? And interestingly enough, this dealing with ambiguity is also very important for companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, right? Because the way these companies work, right, in especially Amazon, Meta, right, where I have, based on my experience, I can say it is like I would call it like these are startups within a big company. So the way the teams operate is there are like mini startups. It's like a forest of startups, right? So many different startups in a big umbrella, right? So the main difference, what's the main difference then, right? Like, so I think from a software engineering perspective, like I think this is what is common if you have to be successful at a startup or not. Now, what is the main difference? The difference comes in terms of risk and reward ratio, right? So if you are in a startup, especially the early stage startup, right, you can, if you are say a first engineer, you can expect decent amount of equity, right, in an early stage startup, and that gives you that risk reward thing, right? Because if that startup tomorrow becomes successful, gets an exit, you probably will make end up making a lot of money as well, right? In a big company, compare it to a big company where you'll have a steady career growth and you will be compensated for that, right? So I think that risk appetite, the flip side to that is 95% of the startups fail, right? So be prepared that you work hard. I remember in my startup, I used to work for 18 hours a day, constantly 24/7 for 1.5, 2 years. I worked like that, right? And it was not success. Okay? So be prepared that financial reward is not guaranteed, right?
Definitely.
And so I think this is a very important distinction I would like to make. A lot of people think that and especially these days, a lot of engineers feel that it's for a lack of better word, like it's sexy to be a startup first engineer in a startup, right? But remember that and I'm sure you are aware, right? Startups, you have crazy days, right? You don't know how your next paycheck is going to come. How are you going to, pay the company, right? Things like that will also come, right? So it like that, you will get a lot of learning, but be prepared. So if you don't have, so I would say, to answer your question, I think if you don't have the risk appetite, and if you don't have that luxury to take the risk, if you don't have that backing, financial backing, don't don't blindly jump. I don't think it's a good idea. First understand. So the way I would think about it is, first understand where you are getting into, what do you want, what is your level of risk, right? And then take a call. And you can always do that later on also. Like in the initial days of your career, don't necessarily have to, if you can't, you don't necessarily have to work in a startup. You can work it later, at some later point in time where you are, more risk averse as well. So if you look at I have been flipping in and out of startups, right, throughout my career. So I think that's also a way to move ahead. Yeah.
Right, definitely. Got it. I think the distinction you make, people should understand themselves first. First, identify whether they really have the appetite right now, don't have that many attachments to maybe start something or join something pretty new. I think that is an important distinction, right?
Right.
Okay, great to hear that. वैसे talking about uncertainty a little more, with things changing at such a pace in tech in general, and even Gen AI coming in, this is also a time for transition for even people in the most solid of MNCs, right? With Gen AI coming in, definitely there would be some changes in the way people are working, right? And you yourselves have been working on it for the past 5 years, right? Preceding this specific generative AI boom also, you were there in the AI space. So want to understand from your perspective, what sort of narrative do you think will play out in the next 5 years, let's say? What sorts of things will change, and how will people have to adapt with that those changes? So
yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think if you look at how AI is evolving, like last 10-15 years, right, you would see that, let's take an example of, say, a problem like image recognition, right? So earlier somebody had to manually create features. Then then came the word of deep learning, where deep learning learns features for you, right? So I think what I'm trying to say is, slowly we are seeing commoditization of technology, right? So earlier, for those features, you needed very specialized people. Now, with deep learning and all, with these models available, right, anybody can use those off-the-shelf models as well. There is, of course, specialization needed if you want to build that model, if you want to do a fundamental contribution. So I think that is like the first distinction I'll draw. Like the first thing, as a software engineer, you should think about it is, where do you want to go? Do you want to make some fundamental changes to these algorithms? Do you want to work at places like DeepMind, Google Brain, like things like that, like OpenAI, right? Do you really want to do that? Then there's a different career track for you, right? And if you want to be an applied guy, right, then there is a different career track for you. So now, if you want to be an applied guy, right, I think you still need to be a really good software engineer, because that's a basic, right? So you need to know how to code and all, how to build the application. You should be aware of all the open source tool chains available, for example, LangChain and all that, right, which is available today, using which you can build a LLM based application, say, right? And so, like, your bread and butter is still going to be a builder, to like know these tools. You should still be a hacker at heart. You should be able to hack things, enjoy that, right? So all of that will still remain true. Now, what will change is probably how you code is going to change, right? So GitHub, Copilot, and all these tools are coming, right? But I would like to think about them in the longer scheme of things, the way I think about it is, if you think about 90s, 70s, right, when compilers were first, like mainstream compilers were coming, basic and all these things, C++ languages were getting created, right? So a similar thing was happened, similar paradigm shift happened at that time also, right? It became easier to become a programmer because of a compiler, right? So similarly now, because of this GitHub Copilot and all this, it will make you more productive. So I would say, instead of worrying or feeling that my job is going to end, think about how can you be more productive, right? How can you utilize ChatGPT or like algorithms like ChatGPT on your day-to-day basis, right? So think about from an applied perspective, right? How will it increase your productivity as a developer, right? Still, if you look at the end-to-end developer life cycle, there are enough tasks which are repetitive, and so I think there's a lot of hope wherein you can focus on things which involve a lot more creativity, a lot more scientific thinking, and all these tools can do like the regular stuff we are having. Of course, I think the bar will increase, right? The bar to be a good software engineer will increase, because most of the time you will be expected to work on the harder aspects, right? You will be expected to be, as you evolve as a software engineer, you will be expected to be really good with low-level design. You'll be expected to be really good with high-level design, right? So like those aspects will become more and more important. And just the raw ability to code, like speed of coding, for example, might not matter as much going forward, right? Like with this whole thing coming in, right? So these are like, this is how I think the landscape is to change. Should I be worried? I would say we should not be worried, but we should be aware, right? We should look at what's happening, what's not happening, and see, right? So that's how I'm thinking about it.
Got it. Yeah, this approach makes sense for me. Would be great if you could also, so in general, the students don't really think they will be able to identify good places to keep themselves up to date regarding what sort of stuff is changing, what is new, what is not new, what other people are doing, right? So what sorts of things do you do to stay updated regarding what is the cutting edge right now?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things, follow YouTube channels. That's like the first thing, which are informative, right? And then, Hacker News is another thing which I follow. Hacker News is a very good, where you get all the latest information. Follow TechCrunch, right? Articles on TechCrunch, what's happening in the world, right? And I think what I would, so these days, as you get into management, you get less time, but still, I enjoy hacking once in a while. Like, take some open source library, right? Try to build applications. So do some side projects, right? With all these latest, because on your day-to-day job, right, you might not be able to use the latest and the greatest always, right? But a good way to learn is by doing, right? So build stuff whenever you get time, right? Look at open source, projects, good open source projects, use them to build up side projects. I think that's a great way of keeping yourself updated and also learning what's happening in
right.
as you progress.
Okay. Guys, you'll find all these resources that Manish so kindly mentioned in the description as well. Do make sure you check those out and try to keep yourselves updated. Like Manish said, being aware is an important important part that you'll have to do when the world is changing so fast, right? So yeah, I think with that, Manish, thank you so much for taking out the time, for giving your valuable insights and your valuable suggestions. Our students would be kind enough to follow these, and hopefully this will help some students become better at their jobs and become better at programming in general. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure as well.
That is it for today's video, guys. I hope you all found it extremely insightful with Manish. If you guys want to see more such content in the future, do let us know in the comment section below. And if you all are also interested in learning coding, just go to our website and take the aptitude test. The test will definitely help you in identifying which course is best for you, be it MERN Stack or Java Full Stack. Both the courses have amazing instructors and mentors from top IT companies to help you throughout your journey. So do make sure that you check out the link provided in the description below. And if you guys are new to the channel, then don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you're always notified on all our upcoming videos. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one.